All right, welcome back to Talk Tickers. So Fold's latest Q3 earnings report, it really has a lot of people scratching their heads. The numbers are telling two completely different stories, which, creates a super mixed message for the market. So let's peel back the layers and figure out what's really happening here.
So you've got this one headline screaming major miss because revenue came in a whopping 20% below what analysts were hoping for. But then, boom, you get the complete opposite story, a surprise beat. The company actually reported its first ever GAAP profit when everyone on the street was expecting a pretty big loss. And, it's this exact push and pull that sent the stock on a roller coaster right after the numbers dropped. So that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Which of these headlines actually matters? Is this a company that's struggling on the sales front, or are they actually somehow turning a corner on profitability? Let's get into the real story.
Okay, to get to the bottom of this, we have to start with those headline numbers that really drove that initial kind of crazy market reaction. Let's check out the tail of the tape. So on the top line, revenue came in at $7.4 million. Now that's a full 20% below the consensus estimate of about $9.2 million. That's a clean miss, not a small one. But then, and this is the kicker, you look at the bottom line, GAAP earnings per share of a positive 1 cent, which just completely shattered expectations for a loss of around 15 cents. I mean, nobody saw that coming. Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. We've got to dig past those headlines, pull this report apart, and find out where that profit actually came from. And even more important, what the real growth story is for the core business itself. And here's the thing, this is absolutely crucial to understand. That profit, that $600,000, it didn't come from selling more stuff at all. It was basically just a paper gain, a non-cash gain from the changing value of the Bitcoin they hold in their treasury. If you look at a number that gives you a much clearer picture of the actual business health, like adjusted EBITDA, they were still in the red, a loss of $4.2 million. But that's not the whole story, not by a long shot. Because even though they missed that quarterly target from Wall Street, the business itself is actually growing like a weed. Revenue, up 41% compared to last year. And transaction volume, up even more, at 43%. So, the core engine is still humming along nicely. Okay, let's talk valuation, because this is where my mind is kind of blown. So get this. The company's entire market cap is about $145 million. But they're sitting on $154 million worth of Bitcoin. Yeah, you heard that right. So what does that even mean? It means the market is basically valuing their entire operating business, the app, the growth, all of it, at almost nothing. It's like the stock is just a proxy for their Bitcoin. It's wild. So how is management planning to change that perception? Their whole game plan is to prove they're a real Bitcoin-first operating company, not just, a glorified Bitcoin piggy bank. And on the call, they laid out a pretty clear 3-part playbook. Step 1, go hard on ramping up their gift card business. That's a great, profitable way to get new users. Step 2, launch that credit card everyone's been waiting for. And step 3, and this is key, they're going to fund all this growth with debt, using a new credit facility so they don't have to sell their Bitcoin. And that credit card, that's the big one to watch. It's not some far-off dream. They've got a wait list that's over 80,000 people long. That is some serious pent-up demand right there for a product they're aiming to launch in Q1 of 2026. All right, so we've sifted through the noise, the confusing profit number, the revenue miss. What's our take? What's the final verdict on Fold, and what are we listening for on the next call? When you look at that strong underlying growth, the hard asset floor, and the huge catalyst coming up, for us, the rating on Fold is a clear outperform. And hey, it's not just us saying this. The consensus on Wall Street is a price target of around $7.80. With the stock trading at about $3, that implies, over 160% of potential upside from here. I mean, that's a huge potential return if management pulls this off. So just to wrap up our thesis, it really boils down to 3 simple things. 1, you've got this incredible safety net, a valuation floor backed by their massive Bitcoin stack. 2, you have real tangible catalysts right around the corner. We're talking the credit card launch and the gift card push. And 3, they've got the money to do it. That new $45 million credit line gives them all the firepower they need to grow without having to sell their Bitcoin or ask shareholders for more cash. All right, for our last segment, let's have a little fun and talk about a potential trade idea, a way you could actually play this thesis if you were so inclined. And of course, gotta say it, this is purely for informational purposes. This is absolutely not financial advice. So the idea is what's called a pairs trade. It's pretty simple, really. You buy full stock, go long, to bet on all that company-specific good stuff we just talked about. But at the same time, you short a Bitcoin proxy, something like the BTO ETF. So why would you do that? Well, the whole point is to take the price of Bitcoin out of the equation. You're trying to neutralize your exposure to the crypto market's wild swings. What you're left with is a pure bet on Fold's management and their ability to execute. You're betting that launching that credit card and ramping up gift cards will finally make the stock price break away from just tracking Bitcoin and close that massive performance gap we've seen this past year. So, at the end of the day, that's what this all comes down to. Can Fold's management team finally convince the market that they're a real, high-growth fintech company and not just a complicated way to own Bitcoin? The next couple of quarters are going to be make or break. All eyes are on that credit card launch. It's going to be critical. And one last time, this is not financial advice.